Hey folks, my name is Pilot Light, and today I'm going to be covering the Parasite Chambers. Parasite Chambers is a mid-game dungeon. It's always got this special set piece on the map that's got like this corrupted land, this dark dungeon walls. Parasite Chambers is a moderately difficult dungeon. It's harder than most of the Godlands dungeons. It does drop mana, which is a pretty rare potion for mid-game players. It also drops the Scepter of Devastation, which is one of the best scepters for a sorcerer. It also drops a very powerful spell for wizards. So once you kill that like spawner thing in the middle, it drops the entrance to the Parasite Chambers, and you can just head right on in. Looks like we're gonna have more damage bosses on this one and faster projectiles. So we can head on into this dungeon. Again, Parasite Chambers, moderately difficult dungeon. There's these walls throughout it. There's a lot of just like corrupted land. None of these little guys are super dangerous. You want to be really careful of the big guys in here and these spawners, as well as, I'll point them out when I see them, but there's these sicken enemies that will make you sicken, which means that you don't get to heal. Those little blue sack things that come out will quiet you, so try to dodge those if you like using your ability. And these barrels, when you walk up near them, you push them, and they cause these little explosions, and those explosions will armor break any enemies or players in their radius. Doesn't do any damage, but I am armor broken with that. So be very careful if you're a knight or someone that relies on your armor to survive in those. Now, this is a dungeon that the entrance to the boss room is always to the left or right of the boss. So you try to make your way in that general direction. It's a very like weird. The layouts on this dungeon tend to be weird. These are the sicken guys I was warning you about. This spawner doesn't actually spawn him. He spawns these guys that drop these slowing bombs. In order to kill the spawners, you have to knock a barrel into them and to armor break them. You actually have to do that twice. They fully become immune at half health. So you have to do that twice. If you're lazy or you're confident in your abilities, you can just kind of ignore them and keep pushing through the dungeon. One thing that's worth mentioning, these guys are the sicken ones. So this spawner that shoots bombs will spawn these sicken guys. This is a very dangerous room because if you keep eating those sicken shots, you can potentially get killed before you get a chance to heal up. The bombs do very hefty amounts of damage, 108 to me, and I've got 42 armor, so they're 150 damage bombs. If you're eating the sicken shots as well and you can't heal up, you take a few bombs in a row, you can very easily die in this room. So be careful with that. These spawners actually do drop attack potions sometimes too. It's a pretty rare drop, but they do drop them. But yeah, as I was saying, the layout for this dungeon is pretty weird. In that there's a lot of times where you're like, oh, this will be a quick dead end, and it just goes on for like 8 more rooms. So I don't encourage like trying to full clear this dungeon. It's usually a lot bigger than you think it would be. But if you feel like it, go for it. There are treasure rooms in this dungeon, and they actually give like a good amount of fame. I think they give 8 fame each when you kill them, and they're very safe. It's just you break open the chest and clear it. Something to mention with these walls is they do block vision, so I won't be able to see an enemy. So enemies can sometimes just like magically appear like that. So like if I don't have line of sight, that guy just disappears, just like that. So I actually think I'm probably headed the wrong way. Yeah, I think it's probably the left and up. So I'm going to go back and take that. Again, really weird paths. I'm actually going to take this right here just because I can't imagine that it goes anywhere. I just want to see what's over here. But again, this could be a great example of how this map can be weirdly big. Like, yep, see, of course there's a down there. There's zero room for rooms in here. Perfect example. Try to avoid, by the way, these droppers. Don't sit on those because they do, 90 base damage each. If you take 6 of those, or one blast is 6 of those shots, so it can do a lot of damage real quickly. All right, now I'm pretty sure this is the main path. And again, these big guys do a lot of damage. They're not super dangerous if you can kill them quickly. You just, generally speaking, want to kite them backwards. The one that I just killed does have that sort of shots where they diverge and then converge again. It's actually safer to be a little bit closer to that guy, because if you stay at like a full range distance, then you can tank multiple shots from that, and they each do a fair amount of damage. I'm going to guess it's the right here. Yeah, and these guys are, if you've done a Mad Lab, very similar to the Mad Lab explodey guys. They're just going to run up to you and explode. Don't stand on them while they're flashing red, because you will die. Yeah, so there you can see the converging shots from this guy as they come back. I think I already killed him with my Scepter of Devastation. As I mentioned, this is the best damaging scepter in the game, and this is the only place to grab it. You can also get it from blueprints, but very strong weapon, very good reason to come to this dungeon, because it does do a ton of damage, very useful. We're going to be getting to the boss very shortly. I might, it's a Sicken room, I might not rush it. Yeah, I'm not going to rush. See how that guy just disappeared for a second because of the wall. So if you want to be safe in this dungeon, I do recommend breaking every wall, just so that you don't have to deal with that risk of enemies appearing and disappearing on you and killing you. All right, cool. So we are at the Nightmare Colony. Be careful as you go in here. Sometimes there can be enemies in here. The boss doesn't activate until you shoot one of these barrels at him. This is a very unique boss in that he has 9,999 defense, or armor, whatever it's called. So I'm going to armor break him, and I'm going to do some good damage to him real quick. He goes through these same phases every time, but now he's vulnerable, but he isn't armored. He's not armor broken, I should say. So you see all my shots only do like 40 damage to him. This phase is surprisingly dangerous sometimes. These things don't do that much damage. They're doing 44 to me each, but if I'm armor broken and I get lined up by them, I can very easily die. So in order to progress in the boss fight, generally what you want to do is stand near these barrels. You don't actually have to move towards them. If you're just standing still by them, that's enough to launch them towards the enemy. This phase, you don't want to push in too much. Again, stay back by the barrels. These bullets do a lot of damage. I think I have extra damage boss, right? Yeah, so 24% more damage, but still it's dealing upwards of 150 damage per. You can basically ignore this little thing in the middle. It's going to quiet you. It shoots quiet bombs at the nearest player, and then these pet stasis portals, they do very little damage. It just means that you're not going to have full access to your abilities. But yeah, so it's the same pattern of phases. So we have one of these phases to start, the shooty phase, then another one of these phases. Worth mentioning, that phase where he shoots out the bullets in sort of a radius, those are... he always becomes fully invulnerable. You have to hit a barrel to progress. The other phases, see, so he's fully invulnerable here, have to barrel him to progress. Other phases he will not be, but unless you have an armor-breaking weapon, or armor-ignoring weapon, you should be armor-breaking him. This phase is not super difficult, and if you're a melee, this is a good phase to get damage in, because you can very easily get up right next to him and get him. If you're soloing like I am right now, then you have to barrel him, because otherwise you do minimal damage. Just do make sure that you're dodging these, because they do weaken you, and you do way less damage when you're weakened. The good thing is you don't have to hit the barrels dead on to actually break his armor. You just have to get them generally at the wall. So, see, he's armor broken now. It did not even hit him with that. Okay, so then we have another one of these shooty phases, and we're going to go into the finale phase next, which is another one of these, these phases. So something worth mentioning, too, is if you're playing with other people, they can also activate the barrels. You can get some PvP action going in. If you're staying in melee range, you can potentially be armor broken. So be careful of that. But overall, that's pretty much the dungeon. And you'll get a nice little potion of mana, gives you +5 max MP. Again, can be hard to find for mid-game players, so this is a good source of those. And then I got this shard, which is just because it's the modifier for the dungeon. It's not a regular thing that you get in here. All right, well, hopefully this helps you clear the Parasite Chambers. I do recommend going in with a group if it's your first time doing it. Just be careful of the PvP barrels that can armor break you, especially in that phase with the wavy shots that can line you up.